All right, here we go. 27.4 now. We just got done talking about circulation. All right. So previously, we're kind of tracking everything. 27.1, feeding and digestion, taking in food, breaking it down. Okay. Then you have respiration, is how you get oxygen. Now, we talked about in chapter 8 or 9, cell respiration, um, how you have um, your body's going to take in nutrients, break it down, and make oxygen or energy out of it. So now you have your contents for energy, all right, and supply it. But also another thing as far as what makes us living is excretion. We are able to get rid of waste, right? It doesn't just sit in our system. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit differently about how in the animal kingdom, how do different animals do this? And it is different. Okay, if you look at the different types of excretion from animals, they are different in just about three or four ways, majority wise. But really, there's a couple things as far as that they get rid of and how their body does it is what makes them a little bit differently. Okay, so now you've made everything, you made the energy, and your body needs to get rid of what's not being used. Okay, so that's pretty much the process of excretion. Ridding the body of what's not being used. All right. So, whoops. We want to talk about excretion. Excretion is the breakdown of proteins by cells, or the breakdown of proteins by cells release ammonia. Ammonia here, this is that toxic waste, okay? Ammonia, all right? If you've ever smelled ammonia, it is harsh. It's used in cleaning supplies, things like that, all right? So it is toxic, and we want to get rid of it, all right? You can't have that in your body. So through the process of breaking down proteins, you're going to get a byproduct of ammonia. Okay, it comes from the nitrogen group on the protein. As you break that down, you're breaking these bonds, getting energy. But when you break it down, you pretty much take this nitrogen or the ammonia group, and that itself is going to be the toxic. So that's pretty much how you get there, in very short sense of terms. All we need to know is that ammonia is toxic. Okay, so how does the body get rid of it? All right, excretion is simply the elimination of metabolic waste. So metabolic, that is from the breaking down of the food and the oxygen and the nutrients that you just ingested. Okay. Kidneys are the organs that separate waste and excess water from blood. You also have liver in there as well, um, that you can have the filtering of toxins. Um, so that is pretty much the majority here is going to be kidneys in the animal kingdom. Okay, and then what you're it's this is a little bit different. Excretion is a little bit different than um, uh, defecating. Okay, that when we're talking about defecation or stool or anything like that, that just means your body or it doesn't take anything, so it never actually gets into your body. So this is we're talking about stuff that's actually in your body already. Okay, so I want to make that clear as far as the distinction between that. So when you digest or you eat food and you don't use it, you get rid of it. It goes through your system. Okay, whether it's out one end or the end that it came in. In humans, we have a one-way system. Okay, so it goes out the other end. But in other animals, it has maybe a two-way system where it goes back out. Okay, but that stuff never got into your body. But this is about stuff that kind of is in your body, and this is byproducts or waste. Okay, from things that are happening. Like I said, there's three kind of methods, but they're all their purpose is to get rid of ammonia for the most part. Okay, so some small animals diffuse it through their skin. Okay, and that can work because they're small, right? So they are small animals, and they're able to diffuse that and just secrete that through their skin, kind of like sweat. You actually might have some sweat in humans as well that will help get rid of ammonia in humans as well. So it's not just small animals, but pretty much anything that can secrete will get rid of it as well. But for larger animals, these are going to be the main ways in which they get rid of ammonia. Okay. Converting ammonia to uric acid. Okay, you see this in insects, reptiles, and birds. All right, and then converting ammonia to urea. So uric acid here is going to be more of these animals. So if we go back to that very first picture on this chapter here, and you had the rocks, right? And you had the white bird poo or bird waste for the most part. That's pretty much what is happening. Is the body of these birds are converting this ammonia into uric acid and then disposing of it. Okay, and our mammals and some amphibians are going to do urea. Okay, so urea is going to be deposited in urine. Okay, so it's a different kind of looking consistency and liquid. All right, so your urine is going to have urea in it, and that's your body's process of getting rid of the waste. Pretty much what it's going to do is take that ammonia, break it down into urea, and then you're able to get rid of it in urine. If you don't, you have a lot of problems that can happen. You have crystals here that can form. I'm drawing a blank as to what this disease is. But you have these crystals here that can form. These can get stuck in joints and things like that, where it's very painful. If you look at these are kind of like splinters, I guess, that are going to be stuck into your feet and joints and things like that. All right. So if you do not get them out of your body, this is pretty much what is going to happen. So yes, it is important for you to get ammonia or get that out of your body. Animals do it in three different ways, either through the skin or the majority coming from some sort of liquid type consistency that they are going to use to get rid of. Okay, now the aquatic animals is where this becomes a kind of a problem here, because they are in water, and some of them don't urine, okay, or urinate. So aquatic animals allow ammonia to diffuse out of their body into the surrounding water. Okay, so these animals, they just pretty much are going to sweat, but that sweat is going to be that ammonia, and it's going to go into the surrounding water. Okay, now there is a challenge here for different saltwater and freshwater. All right, so the bodies of the freshwater animals contain a higher concentration of salt. What that means is the bodies have higher salt content than the water surrounding them. And we know through osmosis, water is going to follow salt. Okay, so what we have here is we're going to say sodium chloride is high, okay, in freshwater. Okay, that means the salt in freshwater animals is going to be higher than the salt content around. Well, what happens is when that salt content is higher, that water is going to flow into that salt content. Okay, so pretty much what this is saying is that you have a cell here and you have water flowing into that cell because you have high salt. Okay, so the surrounding water is going to flow. That's what this is saying. Water flows into the body by osmosis, then salt is going to flow out. So it's going to have that process of trying to balance that. Okay, so they excrete water through urine, high water concentration. Now, freshwater fish are not going to need to drink water. Okay, they don't because the water is just going to flow into their body. It's just through osmosis, right? So the water is just going to flow in, all right, and then they're going to excrete through urine. So they're going to not drink water and urinate to get rid of um, excess water or to get rid of uh, ammonia as well. All right, saltwater challenges this reverse process. Okay, it's this completely opposite. So salt water is you have salt more or higher salt out here. Okay, so your sodium, we'll just say that's sodium, and then your water. So you're going to have your water is going to flow out of the cells. Okay, so you have pretty much a reverse process that's happening with the salt water. Okay, bodies contain a lower concentration than the environment, and they lose water from osmosis, and the salt diffuses in. So that salt water is going to go out here, and salt's going to want to go in there. So it's a kind of reverse process. So um, saltwater fish are going to try to conserve their water by producing very little concentrated urine. All right, and then they're going to pump salt out of their gills. All right, so they want to conserve, hold on to their water. Why? Because the water is going to want to leave their tissues. They want to get rid of water. Why? Because water is coming into their tissues. All right, so I believe there's a picture I could show you that will help see this a little bit. But going on to terrestrial animals, the terrestrial invertebrates produce urine in nephridia. So those are the kidneys that we were talking about. They're called nephridias. Neph is a urinary prefix. The nephron is actually what the structure is that breaks apart and does all this, or converts ammonia to uric acid and absorbed by Malpighian tubules. Okay, so these tubules here will absorb the uric acid. And then terrestrial vertebrates are converting it to either urine or uric acid. Okay, so they take the urea and then they convert that to either keep it in urine or they're converting it to uric acid, which they get rid of as well. So here's the diagram as far as the freshwater versus saltwater. Okay, this is a kind of a question that some people have asked as far as how would the flood work if those fish that were flying, not flying, but during the flood that survived, how would freshwater fish survive? Well, we talked a little bit about that as certain freshwater fish can survive in a salinity or enough salt water for their structures to still function, and vice versa. Okay, so there's this level. Usually, I think it's about 15% concentration of salt, and they can still be able to survive. All right, so ions, that's going to be salt. Okay, think of that as salt, and water, obviously blue for water. Okay, so you're going to have here you have this freshwater fish here. Okay, you're going to have ions are going to actively intake it, right? The ions, but you're also going to get rid of them. Okay, you're going to get rid of them in different ways here. Okay, mainly because you have a lot there, and you're going to want to try to balance out, right? You're going to have diffusion of water, or what is osmosis. So it goes through the skin, and it also goes through the gills. Notice it is not drinking any of the water, right? Just food that is going to be going in there, mainly because the water is going to be passive and it's going to flow into freshwater fish on its own. Now, in order to balance that out, you want to get rid of the salt, okay? So you want to get rid of the salt, okay? And then understand here, active uptake, okay, is when you need the salt, it's going to be able to actively uptake the salt, okay? If for some reason it would to need the salt. And you have water and salt in the urine. So it's very diluted, meaning it has way more water than it does salt. Like if you were to dilute some sort of like orange juice, you put water into it, it dilutes it, doesn't taste as sweet. That's pretty much the same thing, but instead of orange juice, it's using urine. So that's a freshwater, and then if we look over here on this side here, as far as saltwater, marine, that's going to be a saltwater. Okay, you still have diffusion, but notice they're in opposite ways here. Diffusion from water is going out of the cell, and diffusion of salt is going into the cells. Okay. And then you have active secretion rather than active uptake. You want to get rid of it. And then same thing here, diffusion through the gills, same way. As well as the urine, it's a very concentrated urine, so therefore it is not, it doesn't contain a lot of water. Okay, and it has a high concentration of urea. Okay, or urine compared to water. So you will see a higher concentration of ammonia or urea in saltwater fish than you do in freshwater fish. Okay, and because the water is flowing out like this, okay, then you are going to be, saltwater fish or marine fish are going to be eating and drinking as well. Okay, so that's the difference between a marine and a freshwater fish. All right, that was 27.4. Thanks for listening, and we will cover chapter 28 this a little bit. Our chapter 28 quiz will be next week. Thank you.